Wings of silver, birds of steel. SilverHawks, heart in metal.
What's up, you beautiful collectors and SilverHawk fans? Thanks for tuning in. Once again, it's the one and only Optibotimus coming at you with another SilverHawks review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the new Super7 SilverHawks Ultimates Steelheart, the twin sister of Swivel, and third member of the SilverHawks team that we have taken a look at. The first being Bluegrass and of course Swivel himself. In this first wave, we're basically going to round out almost the full team, as Bluegrass and Swivel were a part of wave 2 that we got a little bit earlier. Steelheart and Quicksilver are a part of this wave, realistically leaving only the Copper Kid. And we haven't even seen that yet, so I'm really curious. For the package though, much like all of them, they come in this nice brown mailer which has the SilverHawks logo, Steelheart right there. Come around to the back, you got the warnings and things of that nature. And then as we do with all of these, we open it up live on camera so I can get you, or well, you can get my initial impressions of this. Get that out of the way. We got this little plastic baggie, which I do like. I mean, you know, we're all talking about like the environment and stuff, so I don't know necessarily how I feel about the plastic bag. I mean, they used to use, well, back in the day with Matty Collector, when they were using that brown mailer, they would include tissue paper, which was more biodegradable than this, but whatever. But here we go. This is the package. Now, we have seen this before. It is that very gorgeous SilverHawks silver chrome look. Got the logo right there, which is amazing. Steelheart right there. Come around in the back, and you got that very nice embossed logo. You lift this bit up like, yeah. And then we have that very cool cartoon image of her in this very reflective chrome sort of look, which I like how, like, you, as you move it around, like, her eyes are just kind of there, and then you move it around, you see more of the actual character, which that's kind of cool. And then, of course, in case you want to read her bio, you can pause that right there and take a look and see what it says. But again, spinning it around to see for the first time. There we go. That is cool. Now, again, I have had my issues specifically with Swivel and Steelheart in terms of the color that they decided to go with. Not that the paint is bad. The paint is fantastic, and I do like how there is a very nice reflective look to it, but I feel like it should be more gray and less blue. We'll see how it all looks when they're all displayed together. As long as they kind of stand out and look different, I think I'll be okay with it, but only time will tell. But this is absolutely gorgeous looking, and it's cool to, like I said, in basically the first two waves, get almost all of the main group of SilverHawk characters. But for the packaging on her, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get her out here and see how cool she actually is. And here we have Steelheart open up and out of her packaging. And I gotta be honest, as excited as I have been for all of these SilverHawk figures, including Steelheart, getting her opened up and kind of playing with her, I am less impressed with her than some of the others. Starting off first with her accessories, as you can see, she has a pair of relaxed hands. She's got a regular open hand here for like a flying pose or something like that. She's also got her cybernetic one, or you could maybe see their chopping hands. You have this right hand, which is a fist, or yeah, that's the right hand, and then you have another hand here, which is also another fist. Makes sense. Then you have these two, which are open gripping hands, which again, there's literally no purpose really to having these other than the possibility that they might come out with a Mirage vehicle, because this would have them have to hold on to those little handlebars inside there. So I'm wondering if that's what this is meant for. If that's the case, awesome. The Mirage is something that I've always wanted. Even as an adult, I have looked at prices for like a vintage one, and that's definitely out of my price range. But you do have that. You also do have these two blast effects. You can see that these are the little laser things that come out of the shoulders. You also have the impact section, right here that if you don't want to have that on there, you can remove it. It just pegs in there very easily. And maybe if I can get that lined up, so again, you have the little impact section. So if you want to go pew 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 and do something like that, you can do that. You also do get the wings. Now these ones, I'll be honest, nobody ever seems to talk about this, but this is weird to me. When you take a look at that, this is the front of the wing, but it really feels like it feels like it's not centered. Like this is the back of the arm, this is the front. I feel like it should be more in the center. That's like very noticeably forward on her, and it's awkward and it's weird. I don't quite understand it. It is what it is, but I never see anybody mention that, which is kind of interesting. You also do get the opposite side here, and then for this, all you do literally, you just kind of detach that. It just pegs in there just like so, and then you want to bring this in and peg that in there. And then again, when you have that lined up there, it just looks weird how like that's more of a front sort of thing. And then this arm, you detach that and peg that in there, so you can create that flying sort of thing. Now obviously I don't have any hands in here, but you can swap out the hands if you really wanted to, like with that, with her flying. Let's use the other one for her flying look. And I love the fact that they include these. This is really cool. Obviously you need to have that, but this is her kind of giving a flying thing, although you can't really articulate the head back, and I'll get to that here in a bit. But that's really kind of limiting in terms of creating a flying pose for her, because she's just flying looking down the entire time. And again, we'll get to that here when I talk about the articulation, but you also have these little shoulder pieces here that you can rotate that around. It is articulated at the shoulder, not at the elbow section, but you got the little blast section right there, which you're going to bring this in, and you'll just plug that right in there if I can. It does get a little bit tricky. There we go. So if you want to have the blast sort of thing, you have to rotate the shoulder around and then kind of angle that to do some positioning for it, or just have her just go pew pew. Now if you wanted to, you can actually swap this out. It's a little bit tricky to do because it doesn't like releasing very easily. So you do have that, but again, the shoulder portion comes out. This part here, though, can be tricky to do, but you can swap this out with this portion if you wanted to. If you wanted to have that blast effect hole right there, get that in there. So you need to have that. The SilverHawks have to have their wings, so it makes total sense that they would include something like that. I dig it. I think it's really very cool, and definitely one of the needed accessories for her. Now, she also does come with a couple extra head sculpts here. Obviously, this is the regular one, and then you have what really kind of looks like an angry face. I don't know why she's angry in this one. She's not as angry in this one. But one thing that you're noticing is one of the complaints that I have for this figure. It's the paint on here. The sculpt looks amazing. The paint actually, in terms of application, looks good. Like with the eyebrows, the painted lips, all of that. That looks good. But the color, that is really pale. And then when you look at the arm, that also looks very, very pale. And the biggest time that I notice it is when I compare her to her brother. There is a huge tone difference in terms of the paint on there. This definitely has a much better and darker color paint, which gives it a much better flesh tone. This looks weird, like vampire pale. I don't understand, and if they're twins, I don't understand why this one is as pale as Steel Will's. It's completely off. But you can also see the coloring. Now, I like the fact that the coloring matches here between the two. That's good. But I still, as I talked about with Steel Will, the coloring on Steelheart, this is definitely more blue than it should be. When you look at the names of the characters, Quicksilver, Bluegrass, Steel Will, Steelheart, whatever material it is, like silver is kind of a silverish kind of color, Bluegrass, I mean, he's blue. I mean, it is what it is. That's not really metal. But when you think of steel, there's definitely bluish hues to it, but there's also more of a gray element. And when you go back and look at the cartoon, they were definitely more gray, not blue like this. Now, they are not as blue looking as Bluegrass. So, I do like the fact that they're different. It's just, in terms of the paint, not very good. Sculpt-wise is great, though. And like I said, the actual paint detail looks good. Just the coloring, definitely not good. Now, remember, this is the first wave of figures. This was actually the second wave of figures. One thing that I've noticed is a difference between the birds. This is Razor. As you can see, this is the kind of standard sort of pose, whereas this is Razor in a flight sort of pose. What's really weird is between the first wave and the second wave, they decided to make a change. There was no articulation, despite the fact that it looks like these legs could move. There is no articulation in these, but for whatever reason in the first wave they put articulation in these guys. So coming in to take a closer look, this head you can see rotates side to side, which is cool. These legs actually can hinge forward and back. Again, cool. One thing that I didn't really even think about is, because this is static, can't really do much with this, but these are all just like on basically ball pegs. So if you wanted to swap that head out, which is a closed mouth, with this one, which is an open mouth, I don't know really why you would do that, because this is like an action pose, but you can pop that off, you pop that on there. So you have interchangeability with it. And again, these legs are also articulated. I don't know why they decided to get rid of that, but Razor, as you can see, looks really cool. I should stay in. Great detail with the paint there. I really like the metallic coloring around the neck section as well as everywhere else on here. Absolutely looks gorgeous. And then you can get a real cool appreciation for the wings, minus the head. Let me put a head back on there. But with that, you get the cool look for the wings. And then again, you can articulate the legs around. Now, Stronghold here is a little bit bigger of a bird, as you can see with these claws. I still don't really think that the claws work all that well with the actual holding aspect. So popping that off, because looks a little bit better having a closed mouth on a bird that's just going to be perched on a shoulder, setting that there. It is definitely tricky to do, and in case you hear a lot of banging, it's because I'm recording this on the 4th of July, and there's a lot of fireworks going on. So you can kind of wedge this in there. It's not the easiest thing to do, but you just kind of basically force it on there. So you can get her to pose with Razor on her arm, which is cool, but you do have to kind of be very delicate and creative with the posing. So maybe rotate that. No, I'm gonna try to rotate that there. I mean, that is cool. I love that. I still wish that they came with some kind of a perch. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I wish there was a perch that they came with that you could have all the birds on there, but it does throw off the center of balance. But you can see, you definitely can get her to pose with Razor on her shoulder, which is nice. I do like that. And then with the flying one, that one gets a little bit more tricky because, again, the center of gravity changes. But you kind of want to take the claw and force that up there kind of around her forearms. And now with these legs moving, it does make it a little bit more tricky to do. But and this one, oh, this is just straight up just kind of warping that plastic. So yeah, I don't know necessarily how I feel about that, but you can kind of get that to work. There we go. So you can get it, which I like. I think it's cool. Like I said, I do wish that there was a better way to kind of perch these on there, and you basically just kind of stretch that out to actually clip on there. So it is unfortunate. But the rest of the figure is solid looking, but again, even with the paint on this other, it's just way too pale, and the coloring is definitely a little bit more too light, or blue, I should think. Now bringing in a couple here, bringing in a few to kind of illustrate what's going on. And this is definitely a little bit wobbly. So let's have her there. Let's bring in Bluegrass here because you can definitely see the difference in terms of the color between them. But again, you can really see that there is too much blue in these ones. It is different, but just it's not enough of a difference. I really don't feel. It's definitely close. Now, when you look at Quicksilver, which I'm going to do the video for that fairly soon, you'll see that they do get a little bit different looking. But again, I just feel like the color here is too close. And then just because, let's take a look at this monster, Monstar. And there, again, huge size difference when you look at these guys. I almost kind of feel like Steel Will should be a little bit bigger, I think. The size between the rest of them is pretty good. Steelheart is a little bit shorter, and then you have Quicksilver here, or not Quicksilver, but you have Bluegrass, who gets a little bit taller because of his hat. But, looking at it, it's not terrible, but I definitely think that he should be a little bit bigger, or taller, I should say. Now, for Articulation, as you can see, the head is a little bit limited. You can get her to look down, which is pretty decent, but you can't really get her to look back. You can see this extra little section right here prevents her head from really going back, so it really limits the flight poses for her, which is unfortunate. But you get the left and right, all that good detail. Shoulders in and out, they're on hinges, and you can rotate that. You have a shoulder swivel, you have an elbow, and you also have a swivel at the elbow, or I should say you have a upper bicep swivel and then an elbow swivel, so it really seems pointless. You do have a hinge here at the wrist. It also does rotate. You have a diaphragm joint here. It doesn't have a actual ball joint, which is unfortunate because you can't really angle that. It just rotates around, which is kind of unfortunate. And then nothing down here at the waist area. Hips here, though, move very limitedly. I don't know if it's because of the way that the little waist section here is sculpted, but you don't get a lot of range of motion with it. Going out's not too terribly bad, but the rotation is also up here for primarily the hip area. So you can rotate that out a little bit, but then when you come down to the knee, you have a knee bend, and then you also have a rotation there. So you got some extra articulation in that area. The ankles, as you can see, this is very loose and floppy, so I'm probably going to have to tighten that up. But you also do have a hinge, and then you have like that hacky sack pose. So you can get some pretty good poses, just not a lot of real good poses. All in all, she's a solid figure, but I do think that she is a little bit lacking with some of the other figures that we've already taken a look at. And I think one of the best looks is going to be pop that off and then pop this on. I mean, I think all the SilverHawks are kind of super cool looking when you get them actually completely, well, not really armored up, because they don't really get armored, but when you get the cool flying sort of thing going, I mean, like, that is really fun. I just wish, like I said, you could get a little bit more upward posing for her. So really cool figure. You have to have Steelheart and Steel Will. They're iconic, essential characters to the SilverHawk franchise. So naturally, Steelheart is one that you're going to want as well. Is she as good as some of those other kind of releases that I've taken a look at? Not quite, honestly. She's still solid, don't get me wrong, but I do definitely feel like she is on the weaker side of things. And that's unfortunate, but it's still the best that we've gotten pretty much ever. So I would recommend adding her to your collection, which is kind of pointless to say, because if you're collecting these, you're more than likely going to get her. Oops. Well, there you go. Yeah, so the fireworks are knocking her over, but also, like, the ankles are fairly weak. But there you go, guys. There's my look at the new Super7 SilverHawks Ultimate, one and only Steelheart. If you'd like to add her or any of these other Super 7 figures to your collection, I will be putting some links right down there in the video description, where you can swing on over and check out availability on her, as well as the rest of the wide range of Super 7 figures. Also, as a special bonus, if you choose to use the link down in my video description to take you to Entertainment Earth, in addition to getting free shipping on orders over a certain amount, you can also save yourself an additional 10% off of any in-stock order that you place, helping to help you save some money and at the same time show your support for my channel. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Once again, I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching, and until next time, this is Optibotimus saying adios, au revoir, and I'll be the same.
Partly metal, partly real.